One of my favorite franchises in all of cinema has been for a long time the Alien franchise. Started back in 1979 with the amazing Alien, and no one could have predicted how big it was going to become, how successful it was going to become, and how many films were going to come from it. And would we have known that in 2012, instead of the end of the world, we would be getting a prequel?
If you don't stop it, there won't be any home to go back to.
Why is that door open? Cut it off! Cut it off! Big things have small beginnings.
Yes, Prometheus, the prequel that nobody saw coming, that came out of nowhere and had everybody going nuts, wondering what could happen, what possible reason there could be to have this prequel, what message was there to tell. And Ridley Scott, he hadn't been involved since the first film. What were we gonna get? But everything was kind of vague, and whenever the word prequel was dropped, it was corrected to be takes place in the same universe. The problem is, this is not an Alien prequel, or at least initially wasn't intended to be. It was intended to be another story in the incredible Alien universe, which happened to happen alongside the creation of the original Xenomorph, or at least the first iteration of it. So, obviously, audiences were a little bit annoyed when it turned out to not be the prequel they thought they were getting, and ended up leaving everybody with more questions than anything else. But I was not disappointed. Oh, Prometheus, you beautiful, wonderful, confusing film. 2012 was a huge year for films. Huge year for films. There were so many good ones that came out. And probably my film of the year was Prometheus, and it wasn't a popular opinion. Critics seemed to think it was okay, but audiences were just like, what was that? Where's the alien? I didn't ask for any of this. And that's the point. You weren't supposed to be getting an Alien prequel. It was never what he wanted to do. You can tell he had another idea for the creation of humanity that he wanted to tell. And he wanted to tell it in a universe that he knew, that he'd already set the ground rules for. So the Alien universe was perfect. Well, let's start from the beginning. The premise of the film is that there's these engineers, which are basically giant human-like creatures that created us. We don't know why, we don't know when, but they created us. And wow, right off the bat, you've said goodbye Darwinism, goodbye religion, and gone straight for aliens created us. Brave. But I was on board, absolutely on board, because it's a sci-fi film. I don't have to be offended. Oh my god, they're getting rid of religion? What is the world coming to? It doesn't have to be like that. Movies are called movies, or films, because they are captures. They are captures of someone's imagination. Like being in an art gallery and you're looking at a picture going, yes, art. And that's how I see films. I see films as art, and you should see films as art. Everyone should see films as art. You're not just looking at some random nonsense. You're looking at someone's vision, someone's representation of what was in their head. And that's something to be appreciated, which is why I try to be so positive. And which is why when I was last asked, why are there so many good shark cards as opposed to the bad ones, it's because I don't really see endless faults in many films. A lot of films have redeeming qualities that elevate them up, because again, you're still looking at someone's imagination, and Prometheus is full of imagination, full of it. So our introduction to the engineers is one of complete confusion and epicness, as one gets left behind by his peers on top of a waterfall and consumes what looks like a little black shot glass of death juice. It has to be said, death juice, because as soon as he drinks it, he starts decomposing? No, that's not quite the word. Obliterating is probably the word. Whatever it is that he drinks breaks down his cells and DNA and replaces them with new cells. A complete reconstruction. I mean, you're talking about a weaponized pathogen here that would make the bubonic plague look like somebody cleared their throat. Fast forward to our future, but the Alien franchise's past, if that makes sense. And we've got Dr. Shaw and Dr. Holloway exploring the mountains of Scotland, looking for ancient drawings and old relics, and they find something that they've seen in just about every other part of the globe from all kinds of time frames throughout our history, all depicting giant beings pointing at the stars, and the stars arranged in a very particular pattern. Ergo, they conclude that it's a map. I see this is probably my first and only problem with the beginning of the film, is that it's very vague, the way that goes from being, oh, look, to, I think they want us to come and find them. How did we get there? But whatever, it means we get to go on the Prometheus, which is the coolest sci-fi ship since the Millennium Falcon. And there we're introduced to David. And remember, this is set in the Alien universe, so you can have an android, and that's exactly what he is, one of the original androids. And it shows, because he isn't quite as human as Ash in Alien or as Bishop in Aliens and Alien 3. He's just kind of an obvious robot. So that's clever. I appreciate that. Even though the film looks obviously more modernized because it's newer and filmed with newer equipment, it still appreciates the fact that it takes place in the past. It's the same sort of problem that Star Wars had when it had to make the technology in The Phantom Menace older than the technology in A New Hope, but also make that presentation with new technology. And the whole crew of the Prometheus have been asleep for 2 years trying to travel to this location, which has been funded by the Wayland Corporation. Oh, them again. Yes, again, it's not hiding the fact that this takes place in the Alien universe. So you've got your captain, you've got your bodyguards, you've got your geologist, you've got your biologist, and then of course you've got Dr. Shaw, Dr. Holloway, and we're going to go to this planet that was the only one capable of sustaining life in this solar system that encompasses the stars that the beings were pointing at. So they are all excited, they arrive on the planet, it's kind of hazardous, it's kind of hard to breathe, but they go inside this cave structure and they find out that it's actually breathable in there because something is cleaning the air. Awesome. And they find their engineers, sort of. Bodies of them for the most part. But they also discover that, yeah, actual brave decision here. It's not left to chance, it's not, oh, maybe. They discover that, yeah, we come from the engineers. I applaud you, Mr. Scott, for sticking with that, because that is brave. To do that halfway through your movie is brave. But this wouldn't be an Alien movie without the androids being up to some secret agenda, and David discovers the pathogen that we saw at the beginning of the film. And he's been getting a bit of a hard time from Dr. Holloway, constantly being put down, called boy, told, why are you wearing a helmet, man? I mean, you don't breathe, so why are you wearing a suit? Why are you wearing a suit? Just being put down all the time. And you can actually just see the point where David snaps, and it's like, strike one, strike two, strike three, you're done. And he puts the pathogen in Holloway's drink, and so the next day they go back to pick up a few people who couldn't make it back from the cave before a storm hit, and find that they're gone. We got to see what happened to them. They screwed around with what can only be described as a hammerpede, which was basically an alien snake with acid blood that was very, very strong. It does bleed acid, and the geologist's mask melts, and he faceplants into some of the black pathogen goo, and you just know that he's gonna have a bad time. But when Holloway and Shaw and the rest of the group show up there to find them after losing contact with them for obvious reasons, Holloway has a bit of an issue going on. He starts to convulse and get very, very sick, and decides to kill himself by forcing the project leader / owner of the ship, Meredith Vickers, to flamethrower him, because she's afraid that if he gets onto the ship and he's really sick, he could make them all sick, which is fair enough, but the way Charlize Theron does it is actually pretty clever and makes it like, oh, you hate her for this, but you also understand why she needs to do it as well. But before Holloway's grisly demise, he had a night of lust and pleasure with Dr. Shaw, and she's now 3 months pregnant with a very unusual fetus, which of course has everybody in the audience going, oh my god, the first chestburster. Sadly, no, not a chestburster, but she does have a very odd scene, which most people point out, where she uses a special med pod to have a cesarean for a man and have it pulled out of her. A silly scene, but not a horrible one. And then they discover that the guy that they thought was dead, who's the project lead, Mr. Peter Whalen himself, is actually alive, or near to death, and was hoping that Dr. Shaw and Holloway could bring him to the engineers so they could increase his life. He doesn't. He kills him and rips David's head off. And now we have a situation. But I'm getting ahead of myself. David's been doing his own private thing, and he found that one of these engineers was in fact still alive. And where did he find out? On the original ship, the space jockey himself. Tell me this isn't beautiful homage to Aliens. You're on one of the donut ships, and you've even got the space jockey. Love it. So like I said, David brought everybody to the engineer, and he killed pretty much everybody. But rather than chase Dr. Shaw, he gets in the ship and prepares to head to Earth to presumably dump the pathogen and destroy us so that he can start again? Scary stuff. But our charismatic Idris Elba captain character Yannick crashes the Prometheus into the ship, causing it to fall to the ground for one of the most hilarious scenes of all time, in which Shaw and Vickers outrun the rolling ship by running ahead of it, rather than, running sideways. And this, of course, spawned the Cinema Sins meme, the Prometheus school of running away from things. And they're absolutely right. If they had just run sideways, they probably would have been fine. They don't, but somehow Shaw manages to roll out of the way. Vickers, not so lucky. You know how there's always that animation in a Monty Python bit where the foot comes down? That's Vickers. The engineer chases Shaw to Vickers' lifeboat from the Prometheus that she could live in luxury if she ever had to, abandon everybody, because she's such a nice person. Turned out she was Wayland's daughter. Big shock. But that lifeboat also has the med pod, and guess what's in the med pod? So the engineer gets to throw down with an enormous facehugger. I mean, we're talking the biggest facehugger we have ever seen, as a direct result of the pathogen being in Holloway when he passed his seed to Shaw, and this fetus that she created turned into the very first facehugger. Not convinced? Well, in the pre-credit scene, we get a chest-bursting scene at last from the engineer, in which the very first machinations of a xenomorph are produced for our delight. And then the credits roll, and that's when the audience goes, wait a minute, what? Shaw and David are off to go to the engineer homeworld? How is this a prequel to the Alien? And this is where the problem came in. People didn't want the Prometheus story. I did. I wanted to know about the engineers, and unfortunately, people wanted an Alien prequel and wanted to have it full of aliens, and when it wasn't, they got upset. But for my money, I love Prometheus. I love it. I love the colors, I love the acting, I love the mystery, I love the science fiction stuff. I love the fact that you never really know what the end game is. You never really know what's going on. You just watch and see, and so few movies can do that as well as Prometheus, and it is absolutely, I won't even call it a guilty pleasure because I feel no guilt. I love Prometheus. I absolutely love Prometheus. It's one of my favorite movies. I love the whole Alien franchise, minus the Alien vs. Predator films. I know. But Prometheus stands on its own as this different aspect of the Alien franchise, which is so good. And that's why I am delighted to award Prometheus an easy epic card. It is so good. I recommend, if you haven't seen Prometheus, and you just haven't because people keep saying, oh, it's so disappointing, it's so confusing, nobody knows what's going on, nobody knows what it's about, try it for yourself. Everyone should see Prometheus at least once. Thank you guys so much for joining me for yet another movie review on the channel. And thank you everybody so much for supporting my Twitch stream. It has blown up. I've gone affiliate. In less than 2 weeks, I've gone affiliate. I'm constantly interacting with other like-minded streamers. It's really supportive. I love every second of it, and I really do thank you for all your time coming into my channel in YouTube and in Twitch. Please follow me on Twitter so you can keep up to date with all my goings on, be that with reviews for YouTube or gameplay or game reviews or Twitch streams. All of it can be found on my Twitter. I really do recommend, if you have any interest in my sort of brand, if you will, at all, I really recommend you follow me on Twitter. So this is a bit of an Alien season for my channel, because next we'll be taking a look at Alien Covenant, a very maligned film from a few years ago, and often referred to as the worst Alien movie. But thank you guys as always so much for watching. If you liked this video, drop me a like down below and a comment to tell me what you liked most. If you didn't like the video, leave a dislike and a comment below why you disliked it. Really helps me grow my brand. Thank you so much, you guys. I will see all of you in the next video. Take care.